1 second ago, you were chilling on your couch watching Netflix, and suddenly you're transported back in time and space. Congratulations, you are now in the middle of Scandinavia, anywhere during the 10th century, the land of mighty Viking warriors, breathtaking fjords, and long, cold nights spent praying you don't freeze to death. You might think, I'd totally thrive in a world of epic battles, drinking mead and living like a Nordic legend. That's adorable. But let's be honest, without Wi-Fi, modern medicine, and the ability to DoorDash a hot meal, you'd probably be dead before the sun even sets. But let's see what is waiting for you in this Skyrim-like landscape. First things first, you're in Scandinavia. That means cold. A bone-chilling, soul-crushing, why does the air hurt my face kind of cold. Norse people survived because they were built like oxen, had fur-lined cloaks, and spent most of their time huddled around fires like their lives depended on it. Because they did. And you showed up in a hoodie thinking that'd be enough. Cute. Here are your priorities. You need warmth, you need shelter, and most importantly, you need food. But unless you have a survivalist skill set that extends beyond microwaving instant noodles, you're in trouble. You might think, I'll just hunt for my next meal. Sure, if by hunting you mean wandering into the woods unarmed and immediately getting gored by a wild boar. And even if you somehow avoid the boars, don't worry, there's plenty else out here that would love to ruin your day. Wolves? Check. Massive territorial moose that will run you down just for looking at them funny? Absolutely. So you decide to walk in the freezing cold instead, hoping to find a village, and after hours of somehow not getting mauled by bears, you stumble into a village, hoping to find warmth, food, or at least someone who doesn't want to eat you. Bad news, Vikings aren't known for their hospitality. They're not going to invite you in for a cozy chat over tea. They're going to stare at you like you just announced that you don't believe in Odin. Desperate, you try to tell them you're starving. Unfortunately, you forgot one small detail. You don't speak Old Norse. So now you're standing there, pointing at your stomach and making sad chewing motions like some kind of deranged mime. They either think you're insulting their ancestors or challenging them to an eating contest. And trust me, once these people feel insulted, you're now part of an impromptu duel. There's no "excuse me" that you take for granted. The "excuse me" is won in an axe duel. But let's not be too cruel. If you subscribe to this channel, you are now granted the knowledge of the Old Norse language, and you are able to communicate with the tribe that you are now a part of. A game changer, right? Not really. Now, instead of just staring at you in suspicion, the Vikings can actually respond to you, which means now you have to navigate their completely normal conversations. A man walks up to you and calls you a weak little fish. Sounds like an insult, right? Wrong. That's just Viking for good morning. But you take it personally, and now half the village is rolling on the floor laughing at your fragile ego. Congratulations, you've gone from mysterious outsider to official village joke. Hope you like your new nickname because it's sticking. Suddenly, a bell rings. It's food time. Thank God, or should I say gods, you're starving. So when someone hands you a bowl of mysterious meat, you don't ask questions. Except, surprise, it's fermented shark. A dish so disgusting, it makes microwaved fish in an office break room smell pleasant. It's been buried underground for months, and it tastes exactly like it sounds. But refusing food is rude, and rude people don't last long in Viking culture. You either eat the rotten shark, or you risk offending the guy with the big axe and short temper. So congrats, you now have food poisoning and potential internal trauma. You barely have time to prevent yourself from vomiting the so-called meal you just ingested, that it's already time for work. That's right, no naps, no bathroom breaks, no scrolling through your phone to pretend you're busy. The Vikings don't do lazy mornings. If the sun's up, you'd better be breaking your back doing something productive, or you'll be made productive by force. You're shoved into the daily grind, which, fun fact, is not a metaphor. It's literally grinding grain. Ever spent hours turning a massive stone wheel to crush barley into flour? No? Well, good news, today's your lucky day. Your arms feel like noodles within minutes, your back is screaming, and you start to wonder if you'll ever feel joy again. Not a fan of making flour? Maybe chopping wood is more your speed. Simple, right? Nope. The axe is dull, the wood is frozen, and every failed swing just makes the Vikings watching you laugh harder. You swear one of them is taking bets on how long before you actually cut off a toe. Just when you think things can't get worse, your new Viking friends decide you're no good at chores, but maybe you're warrior material. Spoiler, you are not warrior material. But does that matter? Absolutely not. You're handed a rusty sword, given 0 training, and told to prepare for tomorrow's raid. Your training consists of getting knocked over repeatedly while someone yells at you. And by the end of the day, you've sustained multiple bruises, a mild concussion, and a deep sense of regret for whatever life choices brought you here. Joking, you were brought here without consent. Before you can even process your new warrior status, you're herded into a Drakkar, one of those cool-looking Viking longships. And guess what? You're not a modern cruise passenger. You're a rower. For weeks, you're stuck on this glorified wooden raft, rowing endlessly across the freezing ocean. There's no privacy, no bathroom breaks, just lean over the side and hope for the best, and no comfortable sleeping arrangements. Your back aches, your hands are covered in blisters, and the guy next to you smells like he hasn't bathed since last summer. Because he hasn't. Oh, and if you thought the food situation on land was bad, then prepare for worse and make it double. Your diet consists of dried fish and whatever questionable stew the cook slapped together. At this point, you don't know if it's the waves or the food that's making you seasick. You've now been stuck on this boat for weeks, but finally there's hope for you as you hear shouting. Land is in sight. Congratulations, you've made it to England. But don't celebrate just yet. Things are about to get much worse. The boat hits the shore, and before you can even process the fact that you're no longer violently seasick, someone shoves a shield into your hands and yells something that probably translates to, "Try not to die." You're officially part of a Viking raid. Exciting, right? Wrong. You're exhausted, malnourished, and your only combat experience so far is losing every practice fight back at the village. But none of that matters, because right now you have one job. Run up that hill, storm a monastery, and steal everything that isn't nailed down. You rush into the monastery, following your new Viking buddies who are way too excited about all this. And sure, at first it's almost fun, like Black Friday shopping fun, except instead of grabbing TVs, you're grabbing silver chalices and tapestries. But just like Black Friday at Walmart, people are fighting around you. Except here, fighting means getting their throats slashed with swords and axes. In case you forgot, the Vikings are not gentle conquerors. They don't just take gold, they take everything. Monks are being cut down left and right, civilians are dragged off as prisoners, and that guy you just had a conversation with on the boat, yeah, he just set an entire building on fire with people still inside. Before you even realize what's happening, the local forces arrive, and let's just say they aren't thrilled about their church being ransacked. You try to run, but your legs are jelly, and before you know it, you're tackled to the ground and knocked unconscious. Turns out you weren't built for war. Who knew? You wake up in chains, tied to a damp stone wall, and realize, oh great, this just got worse. Welcome to Medieval Interrogation, where the English don't believe in simple yes or no questions. They prefer methods like hot iron pokers, stretching racks, and good old-fashioned punching you in the ribs until you spill the truth. But you realize English people speak, drumroll, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, English! Finally, someone speaking a language you actually understand. Except you don't. See, English technically exists in the 10th century, but not the kind of English you speak. Instead of, hey you filthy Viking, tell us where the rest of your crew is, it sounds more like, Gif boo benes boo meet haskapan boo beast more fe ba. You nod, pretending to understand, while trying to figure out how the same language that once sounded like this somehow turned into skibbity toilet riz bro. Unfortunately, your confused nodding is taken as an insult, and that means more torture. You're on the fast track to losing a few fingernails, maybe a toe if they're feeling extra cruel. But eventually, they get bored of hearing you scream and decide you're more useful alive. Your new daily routine consists of carrying buckets of sewage, getting whipped for moving too slow, and wondering if your life would have been better if you just frozen to death back in Scandinavia. So let's recap. You barely lasted 2 hours in the freezing wilderness, got bullied by Vikings, nearly drowned rowing to England, had a moral crisis mid-raid, got tortured, and now you're someone's personal servant for the rest of your miserable existence. If you enjoyed this descent into historical suffering, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next adventure into yet another time period you wouldn't survive in. And let me know in the comments, which historical era do you think you'd last the longest in?